Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to this webinar on real estate consulting services in tourism, ECHO 277, on behalf of Conocer. Now, just a little bit of what this is all about. Conocer is the National Council for Normalization and Certification of Laboral Competencies. Basically, Conocer certifies that you've got the competencies necessary to carry out a certain job, a certain function. This particular standard, ECHO 277, is the only one that's offered in Spanish and English. Actually, in any industry, we kind of have permission from Conocer. We said, well, this is great, but we need to have our English-speaking people also be able to get certified. And so they said, well, as long as the evaluator speaks both languages, then we could allow it. And so let me tell you what this whole standard entails. Okay. First of all, I need to clarify that I arrived on the 2nd of November. If I remember correctly, on the 3rd of November from 10 to 12, we're going to have another session very similar to this one, where we're going to tie up loose ends. Where I'm going to talk about, do a little verification of the documents that you guys have, give you some feedback regarding what's right, what's wrong, and also, I'm going to give you an example of the presentation that's needed. I'm going to give you more examples of products and documents required. And I'm also going to schedule the hours of the certification. Now, I made an error here where it says Friday and Saturday after 4 p.m. It is Friday and Saturday, but it's not after 4 p.m. We have a large group here, and so I think we're going to start certifying on Friday and Saturday around 8 or 9 a.m. Each one of you is going to have 1 hour for your certification. That normally is enough. Some of you like to continue during your presentation, and that's okay too. And also at this session on the 3rd of November, we're going to have a questions and answers. Ignore the last part, signing of the pages. There's really no signing involved now. Everything's done online. We used to have to turn in a stack of papers about this big with your signature on every single page. Fortunately, that's not done. Some of the things I would like to have you bring, I'll mention at the end. For example, there's only one document that I actually need you guys to bring, and that's the registration form, or it's called Ficha de Registro. Okay, that's the only, and it's a 2-page document, and there's a spot on there where you can put in your picture. You don't need to. In reality, you don't need to have your picture there, because once again, everything is digital now. So everything that they ask for within the standard, you can turn into me digitally. And you can turn it to me via USB, or you can turn it into me via Dropbox, or WeTransfer, WeSend, or whatever website for large mailing. Because it's in this particular standard, they ask for a lot of documentation, a lot of documents, a lot of products, what they call products. And then we'll talk about what those are and how those need to be turned in. Now, I mean, I'm your evaluator for the standards, but once I turn in the standards to the Conocer authorities, they're going to reevaluate my evaluation. So everything needs to be exactly where they can find it easily and in a manner in which they can find it easily. So, for example, if it talks about a marriage certificate of the property owner, well, then we need to be able to identify that document as a marriage certificate of property owner, so that the next person that evaluates my work can see exactly why I said that you met that particular area or that particular requirement. Okay, now what is, in reality, the purpose of these standards of competency? Well, they serve as benchmarks for the evaluation and certification of persons engaged in commercialization of real estate in tourism, so as to provide transparent and secure transactions to both buyers and sellers. Now, I know that you guys have a new real estate law there, Baja California Court. Congratulations. I think the law is passed, but I don't think the regulation or the reglamento is passed yet, if I'm correct. Now, it's very important for you guys to understand that as Ampi, it's important to have these types of certifications serve as a basis of your proof of understanding how to be a real estate agent. In some states, this standard of competency or other ones similar to it are valid proof that you guys have the knowledge. I hear a microphone here. I'm just going to suggest, please keep your microphones off if you can. I still hear a mic somewhere. Finish. Your mic's on. On the right-hand side of your name, buddy, in the participants box, you can click on, there you go, thanks. Okay, so let me go on. Okay, the first thing, and actually in this, I need to have you guys print out and bring with you to the certification. Now, in everything that you turn in, and in this diagnostic, it's very important that you don't cross off an answer and put another answer next to it. There can be no bizarre markings on the document, let's put it that way. In this diagnostic, there's 20 questions, and you have to get 17 correct answers so that I can recommend you to proceed with the evaluation. If you get only 15 correct answers and you still feel you're ready, then that's your choice as well. The diagnosis is to serve as kind of like a gauge of where you're at. It doesn't mean that you won't pass the diagnostic if you don't get 17 or if you get, but if you were to get 10 on this diagnostic, for example, I might have to question your preparedness in order to take the evaluation. So we're going to review the diagnostic evaluation that Thursday morning together. Okay, besides the pizza de registro, the diagnostic is the other thing that you need to bring with you printed on that Thursday morning. Okay, now, I want you guys to understand that this standard of competency has 6 elements or 6 areas in which you're going to be graded in. These areas are identifying prospective property owners in fair zones, obtaining exclusive listings in fair zones, promoting real estate properties in fair zones, identifying prospective buyers of real estate properties in fair zones, showing real estate properties in fair zones, and closing the real estate transactions in fair zones. Those are the 6 elements, those are the 6 areas that the standard covers. Okay. I'm going to skip this one because I think it's more confusing than anything else. But basically this says, because there's a simulation exercise during this standard where you have to demonstrate to me by yourself or with the help of a friend acting as a potential seller and potential buyer. So it's a simulation. Obviously, it'd be great if I could go out to the field with you and see that you actually know how to do your work. So we've got to play pretend. So we do this simulation scenario, and we're going to do it for all the elements, even though it says here to simulate. In all of them, you guys are going to simulate actually doing the work. And I'll give you an example of what I mean there. Okay. There's 4 words, 4 areas where you're evaluated in. The performance is basically your simulation. You're acting out of the process of the real estate selling and buying process. So your performance is your simulation. Okay, we'll get into that in a second. Your products are the documents that need to be turned in. Now, I don't care. I've received documents where people white out or in big black markers erase the name of the owner. You can do that if you want to. It doesn't affect me either way. What's important more so for me is to know that you know what you're talking about. If I ask, for example, a certificado de a no lien document, certificado de libertad de gravamen, that you actually know what the certificado looks like and that you're able to produce one. As far as confidentiality, I'm not, there's the confidentiality law here in Mexico. I'm not even going to get into that because technically it's a government agency that we're dealing with, and if anyone should respect confidentiality, I would think that it would be the government agency. However, we're Mexico guys, so I don't know about that. You could turn in products. I mean, if you turn in an escrituras or a title, for example, and everything's blacked out, and I'm not able to see even who or what we're talking about, then that might not be the best idea. Worry not, though. Okay, these documents basically don't go anywhere except down to the Conocer website through many filters. Okay, so products are documents. Now, where it says knowledge, there's one in this standard. There's a questionnaire. There's only one questionnaire in this standard, and it's a questionnaire based on property ownership in restricted zones. Okay, so it's something that I'm pretty sure most of you are going to know all the right answers about because it's pretty basic. Actually, the questionnaire in this standard, I think, is even a little bit easier than the diagnostic that you're going to take beforehand. There's a fourth part in this standard which talks about attitudes, habits, and values. Here you don't get points for having the right attitude, but you can get points deducted if you have the wrong attitude. So, for example, if in your simulation or in your performance, you're talking to the client and the client asks you a question and you avoid the question because you don't know the answer, well, that would be a deduction. Okay. Now, I'm just going to go and give you an example of what the performance is like. Okay. And I want now, okay, one of the rules with Conocer is they say that what is not forbidden is permitted. Remember that. What is not forbidden is permitted. Therefore, if you have a guide with you that, in bullet points, so you can be crossing off to make sure that you cover every aspect of the standard, that would be my biggest recommendation to you. Because if you think you're going to cover everything just because you've been doing this for 30 years, trust me, you're not. Because this standard was written by real estate agents in, actually, Ampi, in Baja California North. And in Mexico, all the states are like their own little country. And so they've got their own little way of doing things, their own little way of calling things. And so my suggestion is just follow this guide performance. Now, I do have the guide performance in English, and I'd be more than happy to share that with you. My suggestion would be that you tailor it to your specific needs. Okay. So if I was being evaluated right now on performance on this particular page that we're looking at, this is how I would do it. Okay. And let me tell you, at the beginning of element 1, you're going to let me know when you're going to start, and I cannot guide you, say yes, say no, or answer any questions throughout the whole performance process until you tell me that you're done. So at this point, number one, I would tell my evaluator, I'm ready to begin, and I would start. Okay, let's see. I'm arriving here at the office, and I need to search for prospective property owners in tourist areas. Okay, well, let's see. First of all, I'm going to check my messages over the weekend to see if any new clients called. I'm going to use the internet right now, check out my Facebook, my LinkedIn, my Twitter, make sure I don't have any messages there from potential clients. Okay. And now, you know what? I just remembered. An agent called me last week about a client of hers that was moving to Los Cabos and was interested in buying something. Let me see if I can find that information. Okay, here it is. And we're talking about Mary Lou Jennings from Rancho Bernardo in California. Here's the contact information. Okay, perfect. You know what? Let me give her a call and let me see what this is all about. Actually, Mary Lou was interested in selling a property. Selling a property in Los Cabos. Okay. Hello, Mary Lou. Ms. Jennings, yes. This is Javier Loza in Los Cabos Real Estate, number 1. Yes, I got your number from your friend Patty. She was telling me that you were interested in selling a home here in Los Cabos. Ah, okay. You're thinking about buying another home and selling the one you have. Well, perfectly. I'd be more than happy to help you with both. Obviously, I would think that selling the home first is the priority, right? Exactly. Okay. Now, as we're talking, Mrs. Jennings, I just want to make sure you obviously bought this house and through escrow at one time, right? So you're familiar with escrow, yes. And your house is it in a HOA association or is it independent? It's independent. Perfectly. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. I'm back with you guys now. Notice that I covered every single point to a degree where I thought I had covered the subject. Now, in this part right here, explains the use of escrow on 2.3. You wouldn't, normally an agent would not talk about escrow right after meeting the prospective buyer the prospective seller for the first time, correct? However, you can wait and do it at the proper time, but my suggestion to you is just take care of it now. It's a simulation. The client's not going to look at you and go, what the hell are you talking about escrow for? We'll talk about that later. Because if you follow the guide or the way the standard was written, then chances are you won't forget to talk about escrow. However, if at one point, you get so excited and explaining this and that, and you forget about escrow, then you'll get some points deducted for not covering that. You need to cover every single aspect of the standard in the part of performance and product. Okay. Now, this is continuing with this element 1 of 6. Yes, Mrs. Jennings. Now, is it okay if we continue talking in English, or, would you prefer Spanish? English. Okay, perfectly. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about your home? Okay, so it's 1,000 square meters of land and 300 of homes and 3 bedrooms, 3 baths. Okay, wonderful. You know what? I would love to visit your home and sit down and meet with you so I can tell you about our real estate services. How do I get to Casa del Cielo en Los Cabos? Okay. Oh, that's where the Walmart's at. Okay, perfectly. Well, then, we'll see you at the house. Do I tell the guy at the gate anything? Okay. I'll just tell him I'm going to Mr. Jennings. So then is Saturday at 10 o'clock good for you? 10 a.m.? Perfect. And we'll meet at the house. Okay, excellent. Okay, Saturday, 10 a.m. at your place. Casa del Cielo. Perfect. We'll see you then. Okay, I arrived here at the first appointment. Hi, Ms. Jennings. Hello. My name is Javier Loza. Pleasure meeting you. Are you comfortable with continuing in English? Perfect, then. I'd like to explain to you some of the benefits of working with a professional real estate agent. My agency is a member of Ampi, the equivalent of NAR. We're also actually international members of NAR. And there's many benefits of working with a professional real estate agent, blah, 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 blah. I want you to tell me what you think the benefits of working with a professional agent are. Okay? Now, I would also like to detail the intermediation process and how it works. I'm going to be your agent from beginning to end here. But this is going to be a teamwork effort. It's not just me selling your house, it's us selling your house, because you're going to be an important part of it. For example, I'd like to talk to you about, are you living in the house currently? Or, okay, you're not. Okay. So then I can come to the house at any time. Are you okay with me having a set of keys? Perfect. Now, there's many different services, many different types of services that people use in real estate. We've got the exclusive listing aspect. We've got people that work with for sale by owner. We've got people that work with non-exclusive. I think the differences are very important to highlight. And here you would explain what those differences are. Now, Mrs. Jennings, before I came over here, since I've sold a couple of properties in this area, in this part of Los Cabos, I took the liberty of bringing a comparative market analysis on your property. This is very basic, and it was just kind of like off the top of my head based on the sales that I've had in this area. But this is what I would like to have you review. And also, while we're talking about comparative market analysis and comparative, types of services, well, I'd like to talk about my commission. I'm part of the, what was my name? Real estate agency, Los Cabos Real Estate, and we charge 6% or 6% commission for our services, plus IVA, of course. Now, you mentioned that this is a private home. It wasn't part of an HOA or anything like that. Okay, perfect. Now, Mrs. Jennings, is this your home, just you, or? Okay, just your house. And what's your real interest in selling? I mean, you mentioned that you wanted to buy another house, a smaller house, a bigger house. Oh, okay. Okay, so then you've already found the neighbor that you want your future house to be in. Okay, it's next to your best friend. Okay, well that makes perfect sense. So you've got a real interest in selling then. Okay, and you've got a real need in contracting the services of a real estate professional. Well, perfect. Then that makes us both happy. Now, as part of our company policy, Mrs. Jennings, there's certain documentation that I require. For example, a copy of the fideicomiso, a copy of a certificate of no liens. Are you up to date on, for example, your gas, your electric, your water? Okay, your property tax. Can I see a copy of that? Okay. Well, here's the list, Mrs. Jennings, of the 6 documents that my agency requires. So I'm going to give that to you. And of course, one of those most important ones is the certificate of no, or make sure that the property is free. It's completely paid off, no mortgage left. No, perfect. Okay, and you're up to date with the property tax and water and electricity. Excellent. Now we talked about the property regime already. It's a single-family home. It's no HOA or anything like that. And Mrs. Jennings, I can tell that you're a Canadian. Well, you know, the Naples, what's the name of the football team? Anyway, the Canadian flag at the entrance kind of tipped me off. Okay, but you're here legally in Mexico? Oh, you've got an perfect. And you mentioned also that you were single, correct? And so we covered that. And could I see a proof of your immigration status here in Mexico? Okay. Okay, sounds good. Okay, that part, guys, covered one element. Okay, there's 5 more elements to go. You've got to do the same thing for the 5 elements. My idea is to just follow the guide. If you follow the guide, you can't go wrong. Seriously. Okay, I'm going to show you a live, well, not a live example because it happened a couple of years ago. But this is my friend Amber and Kim from Playa de Carmen. And like I said, during the presentation or the simulation, you guys can do it by yourself, like I just did over the phone. Oh, Mrs. Jennings, yes, nice to meet you. Or you can have someone there be Mrs. Jennings, and that kind of helps, especially if the person is also taking the standard. That kind of helps in case you miss mentioning something. The other person could be like, oh, wait a second, you know, what about commission? You know, aren't we going to talk about your rate? Or why should I work with you instead of selling my property directly? That kind of thing. Okay, let me give you an example here. Okay, I can stop there. It's basically an illustration of how 2 people can work together on this standard. Obviously, both of them were real estate agents, and both of them had their own guide that they were following. Okay. This is just another example. When we're talking about the evaluation criterion, this is an element for us. Identifying prospects interested in real estate and tourism is what this element is. The same kind of situation as we did earlier. Gets information to identify interested prospects, communicating in the native language of the prospect, in English, asking their interest and financial capacity to purchase, requesting information about tastes, preferences, and needs, collecting information on who has the final decision. That's what we just saw in the example that Kim and Amber just gave us. And so that's what you need to do. Follow step by step what the guide is, and you guys will not go wrong. Okay, give me a second here. Now that's as far as performance goes. This continues. Now, I did go step by step through the whole standard. I just kind of picked element 1 and element 4 as the examples. But basically just to show you what you need to cover as far as the performance goes, guys. Okay. Now, products. This is just as important as the performance. And the products, there's I think all the elements, you have to turn in some kind of product. In element 1, for example, the product that is required is the property information sheet or the fact sheet. I want you to understand something, though. We all have wonderful fact sheets, our real estate companies. But I bet you not all of our fact sheets contain all the information that the standard is requesting. So you can add it on. You can write it in. As long as the information is covered, Conocer doesn't care that, that everything else was typed and this was handwritten. I don't care either. So, in the property sheet, it's going to talk about infrastructure and services of the area. It's going to contain the address. It's going to have a map. It's going to have materials of construction used. It's going to have special installations. It's going to have the state of conservation of the structure and distribution or kind of a layout of what the property is. It's going to specify the legal situation of the property and the documentation with which it counts with. It's going to have all this stuff, okay? So, like I said, I bet you most fact sheets don't have information regarding the legal situation of the property. Okay, so if it doesn't, just write in. This property can be legally sold. Or you can have another subcategory or another bullet point. Legal situation of property, this property can be sold without problem. Next one, documentation with which it counts, and then a list of the documentation with which it counts. So it's very important, to cover every single aspect of what they're asking for as far as products goes. Okay, and we're gonna let me give you an example right now. Actually, let's see. I don't think I have it on there, but I'm gonna share a couple of files with you just so you understand what I'm talking about here. Hold on, I'm actually gonna share my screen with you. Okay, I think we were. So we're sharing, you should be seeing my screen. Yep. Okay, let me see. I just did a couple of verifications in Cancun. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to show you, for example, what am I going to pick here? Actually, this is a different standard. Hold on, let me go to Cosmo is the same standards as you guys did. Let me see, Doug, and Luis Fernando. Okay. What Luis Fernando, I mean, you're looking at my screen now, right? I want you to see Luis Fernando organized all his documents so that they corresponded with the number of the element. So, for example, element 1 of 1. I'm going to open it up right now. This is a fact sheet that we just spoke about. Okay. Well, actually, this is in Spanish. It talks about urban areas. It talks about type of construction. It talks about, actually, it has a lot more information than what's actually required. It has the address of the, oops, hold on. It has the address of the property. So that's part 1 of what leads. Let me get out of here. Of what leads to part 2. 1-2, for example, continues. Here's the layout. You do the layout of the property. In this case, it's a piece of land. Okay, and continues 1.22. Description, general description of the property, elements of construction. Now, he did it all in many, many different documents. You can have one document. Let me see if I can find someone that just did it in one document. Hold on a second. Because let me see if Doug did it in one document. No, Doug didn't do it in one document. But Doug's a little bit different. Once again, that's that example. That's 1.2 condo. Okay, like here, fact sheet. Okay, fact sheet, page 1. Here, all the information that I'm talking about, including in the bottom part, See where it says infrastructure? He wrote that in. Great location to go to downtown Pier. Services, he wrote it in. Maintenance crew on grounds next to school. Obviously, there's going to be somewhere here in this document where it talks about the, actually, it'll be probably the next one here. Fideicomiso, the legal documents with which it counts with. There's many different ways that you guys can present your documents. The important thing is that you label the document name in order so that I can find the information easily. So, in certain cases, you can actually write, make up your own property information sheet. Call it just that. Property information sheet. Infrastructure, and talk about the infrastructure. Services of the area, talk about the services of the area. Address, put the address in. Map, add a map. Materials of construction used, little bullet points. Special installations, bullet points. Distribution of the property. I mean, basically you can create it yourself. Or use one that you already have, as I mentioned before. That's perfectly fine too. Okay, let's see. Okay, the next one it says, we're in element 1 of 2. The file on the property, or the property file in general, the expediente that we call it here, includes a copy of the plans of the building. Okay? Includes copy of the title or the bank trust. Includes the boundary, or what we call this lien of the property. Includes certificate of no tax levies, or no tax liens, actually. Attaches proof of payment of all services incurred in HOAs. Presents the documentation related to the marital status of the owner. Okay. Now, if the owner isn't married, as in case of my client, Mrs. Jennings, okay, because it's asking us for documentation related to the marital status of the owner, and if the owner is not married, well, there's no documentation. However, you still need to cover this element. You still need to cover this part of element 1 of 2. So write in a piece of paper, somewhere in one of these documents, client is single, thereby no marriage certificate is needed. Okay? The next one, includes documentation related to legal residence in the country for foreign or Mexican nationality. Well, that would be a copy, if you're Mexican, a copy of your INE, your identification card. If it's a foreigner, well then a copy of the passport and a copy of some documentation saying what their legal status is, your FM, your resident card, or your FM2, FM3. Next one. This is one of my favorite ones. Presents the documentation related to permits and land use regulations for operations in federal zone. What we're talking about there is that those feet away from the water line that some people in Mexico tend to make into a little front yard with a little green grass area, or a little table, or whatever. Well, that's a federal concession. There's documentation on that for these type of federal concessions. If this is a condominium, it's not going to have a federal concession because it's not in front of the water. It's not invading federal concession land. And so therefore, you have to write it in. This is a condo and therefore does not require any permit for land use in operations in federal areas, or something like that. Now the next one says documentation of record of visits made. Please put in documentation of regular visits made on a piece of paper and include properties where an open house was held. Open house was held at these properties on these dates. Contains announcements of properties that were advertised to the public. Announcements would be an ad in the paper, an ad online, an ad in a magazine, anything like that. Oh, and another thing, my suggestion to you is don't turn in everything in PDF. If you can turn in everything to me in image, I can convert it into PDF much easier, and it's a much smaller file. Conocer only allows me 10 megabytes for all your documents. And so I've got to normally shrink the documents like you wouldn't believe. Okay, now we're going to talk about knowledge, or what I said is the questionnaire that you guys are going to be taking. Now, we're going to take the exam together on the 3rd, okay? And I say together because I'm going to go through the English translation with you as we're going through the exam. And the exam is on the types of property regimes in the third zone. So you should have no problem with it. One of the questions, for example, is something like, in order for a foreigner, let me think of a question, a similar question, not to give you guys any answers here. A Mexican can prove that he owns property in Mexico via this document. Well, if it's a Mexican, the answers are going to be bank trust, fideicomiso, title of property, escrow services. I don't know, some off the law answer. Obviously, the answer there would be title of property, because if it's a Mexican, he's buying the title of property. So yeah, those are just the kind of things that are on there. Okay. Now, the last area where you're judged or you're evaluated on is attitude, habits, and values. Now, like I said, this is not, I've never actually had to deduct any points on this because thankfully I've dealt with professionals the whole time. But this is just to be aware that there are some elements where points can get deducted. And last, here are my recommendations, guys. Study the glossary terms in your standard. Analyze each of the 6 elements in detail. Have a method or a guide or an assistant or ready to remind you of all the steps involved in the demonstration of your abilities for each of the 6 elements. Bring a friend back as your client, or bring somebody taking this evaluation back as your client. Actually, I say that twice, so in Spanish and English. Also, verify that you have all the required documentation and that all aspects required are covered. If something is not covered in the document you normally use and the standard requires it, add it on, write it in, create another page. If the standard, for example, requires, there's many examples. If the standard requires documentation regarding, what's one of the other weird ones on here? Well, actually, the weirdest one for me is the federal zone, the federal concession zone, because it doesn't apply very often. It applies a lot in Rosarito, and that's why they threw it on there. But in most other areas, condo areas, well, it doesn't apply. Or the certification one, the lien date, where it talks about, and that only applies for land. If you have a land, you're going to separate it into, that's what a dislinde is, or the certification. And so therefore, if it's a condo, it doesn't have a dislinde. And so that kind of thing. If you have any questions, my suggestion is write your question down, highlight that part in your standard, and when we see each other on the morning of the Thursday, okay, the morning of the Thursday the 3rd, then you could ask me any question there, and I will be more than happy to clarify everything. Now, the most important thing that I need to have you guys bring is the pizza de registro, and this is what I'm talking about. Let me just open one up here. Let's see. Okay. Oh, I thought I saw a picture of the picture somewhere. Okay. Now notice this, for example. This is an interesting, I want you guys to all see this. This is how she turned in her documents to me, and this is an excellent manner to do it. This property documents, registration, element 1 of 2, 1 of 1, 1 of 2, 1 of 3, element 2 of 1, 2 of 2, 3 of 1, 4 of 2. This is perfect. This is exactly the way it should be turned in. Now, for example, if I go here to the marketing plan, actually, in all her elements, what I end up doing is I end up grabbing it. So these are going to be blank. What I end up doing is I end up grabbing all the elements, putting them in one folder. Okay, after I verify them. So, for example, after I verify them, and then combine them all into a PDF, and it ends up looking something like this. Actually, in this case, okay. I'm going to go ahead and open this up just because I saw it right now. This is what I'm going to be sending you guys. This is the performance guide for tourism standards. And see the little bullet points there and the little circles there? I actually use this when I pass a standard. Basically, went one by one and went checking off once I covered each topic. Now this time, like I said, here's element 1 of 6. The next one is attracting property owners, and then and negotiating the terms of brokerage contract with owner, presents the marketing plan for the property to prospective seller. This is everything that you guys are going to be doing in this 1 hour. It looks a little longer. I mean, there's certain areas where you don't need to get stuck on. Okay, you can just cover it and that's it. But for example, this is one of my favorite parts of the standard. The last 3 on element 6, element 6 of 6, part 6. It says asking that the parties show up for the closing operation with no pet or food or companion. Now, obviously, in Ampi Rosarito, this was an issue for the real estate agents here, so they decided to add that on there. But if you forget to tell the owner and the buyer before you go to the notary that they need to show up without any pets, without any food, or without any companions, then guess what? You're going to get deducted a good chunk of points. And so, in this particular standard, you don't have the luxury of having many deductions. Okay, and so follow the performance guide. I'll be sending this performance guide. I don't know if you guys have it yet. I'm actually going to let me go ahead and do it right now. I'll be sending this performance guide to Norma ASAP, so that she can go ahead and send this to you guys. Okay. I also have something else that I'm going to be sending you. Let's see if I'm sending you the performance. Now, a few of you might be saying, "Oh no, I want to see the whole standard in English." We paid a translator to do the translation of the standard into English, and I am ashamed that Ampi paid someone that had no idea what they were doing, or that used Google as a translating method, and the translation is horrible. I mean, it calls intermediation. It calls the intermediation service matchmaking service. So we're matchmakers now, and so that's why we're not sending that out. We did in the past, but I think it's a bad idea. For example, this is another way that someone turned in their document. Element 1, QA, plans of building. This left me no doubt, and I haven't used this one too. This left me no doubt that this person was covering everything. Of course, I actually would go into every single element. The only problem here is that this person turned in everything in PDF. Well, PDF is much bigger size than a regular JPEG image. And so I'm not going to say no if you turn it into PDF, but I would prefer if you turn it in to me via JPEG, okay? Now, once again, I'm going to go ahead and send this to you guys as a guide on how it should be. I'm giving you actually kind of like my little cheat sheet. Let me see what else I got on here that might be kind of interesting. Answers to the questionnaire. No, I'm not going to give you guys that one. Okay. I think that's it. Let me go back. Okay. Let me go back to the presentation. I think there's just two more points to go here. 1 second. Okay. Product must have a header with logo, footer, and address and telephone number. May be of the same property, whether real or fictitious, and have the name and signature of the person to be certified. Okay, this is interesting. Remember, when I say that we need to have a complete file on the buyer or the seller, I'm not going to be checking to make sure that all the information is tied into the same person. Okay. In some other standards, like the Infonavit standard, that is required. In this particular one, no. Let's just say for some reason you don't have the marriage certificate of this particular owner. Turn in any marriage certificate. It doesn't matter. What I want, and what Conocer wants, is to know that you at least know what a marriage certificate looks like, or what a title looks like, or what a HOA regulations looks like, or what a fideicomiso bank trust looks like, okay? To evaluate the performance of the candidate person to be certified can be aided by documents or formats, as I'm saying, used in their daily activities. The documents used in the presentation are afternoon. if you're kind of, if you think that you would benefit from having your presentation, your real estate presentation that you normally give in PowerPoint, and that's going to be your guide, use it. If you think that having your exclusive listing agreement with you to better explain to the client and make sure you don't miss anything, use it. But actually, I think in the standard, we're judging competency. And so you should already have all this information up here. That's why I just say, just with a little guide reminding you what you need to talk about, you should cover everything. But you can have brochure, real estate consulting service, your exclusive listing agreement, your monthly report of calls and visits to the property, an offer to purchase agreement, a complete file of a property, any property, and the documents solicited in the standard of competency. I mean, you can use all those as aids. I've got no problem. Okay. At the end, and this is once again finishing off what the process is. At the end, about 2 weeks after I'm done with you guys, and Los Cabos, I'm going to submit to Conocer my results. Within a month after that, you're going to get a constancia or a certificate, such as the one there on the right-hand side, with your picture. Picture, very important. I will look for the guideline right now regarding the picture. The picture needs to be but basically kind of like your passport infant size, white background from about here up. Actually cutting off basically a picture is like this. If the picture is not approved by Conocer and you pass, you're going to get the certificate here, but your picture is going to have a big old stamp on it that says not approved. And it's cost, I don't know, $15, $20, 300 pesos, I think, to have it replaced with another picture. So save yourself the time and the 300 pesos and have a picture done correctly, okay, according to the guidelines. And I'll send you I'll send Norma the guidelines right now regarding the picture as well. Okay. I know this is a little confusing. I'm actually going to go ahead and send you guys a recording of this in case you need to go over anything again. I'm actually going to stop recording right now.